Welcome in, heavy and thrash metal fans, to Forge Master Metal Reviews, the place where you can get the most out of your metal.
We are rounding up our favorites by subgenre, and today, as Brendan just said, we got heavy, thrash.
My first pick here is The Troops of Doom. Antichrist Reborn, released April 15th on Alma Mater. I never thought I would hear another Brazilian thrash band that just straight up takes influence from Sepultura and flat out name their band after a classic Sepultura song. Formed in 2020, the Troops of Doom know how to craft some really killer thrash metal with a tinge of death metal influences. There's nods all over Antichrist Reborn to obviously early Sepultura, but Celtic Frost, and there's even some Slayer in there too, which is pretty awesome. The album sounds like it would have come out right alongside Beneath the Remains, and it even sounds deliberate in that regard with its production. Don't get me wrong, although there is not a ton of innovation that's going on here, at a solid 39-minute runtime, Antichrist Reborn takes you on a trip through some devastating thrash metal tunes. A killer record, and for such a new band, they got a ton of time to find an identity, but this is masterfully crafted thrash metal that you're gonna love. 4.5 out of 5, Thrones of Satan.
And speaking of Satan, Satan's Earth Infernal, man. Can't get enough of this record, and I promise we'll be seeing it again on my best of the year so far, because this album is riff fucking city, riff metropolis maybe. Man, the guitar playing on this record is just so fucking top notch, and the sonic quality that they're able to dial in is just superb. The overall production vibe on this record is just very analog without sacrificing anything on the mix. It really feels like you're in the room with the band watching them play. I love the subtle changes to the atmosphere. For example, when the drummer's power hand goes from like a crash to a bell. It's little stuff like that that makes me really miss the unique sound of analog recording, but it's nothing to miss because it's right here. It's awesome to see that bands like Satan are not shying away from their analog roots, but they are also just throwing in incredible vocal melodies, incredible thrash, speed, punk, crossover sorts of riffs. It's just all over the place on this, man. It's so good. If you want something that's traditional while still maintaining an occult vibe, Satan's Earth Infernal is one of the best from this year. 4.8 out of 5, Spells from Lucifer.
And my next pick is one that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about, and that's Venator, Echoes from the Gutter, released February 25th. Speaking of worshiping the greats, one of the best classic heavy metal records of the year came out from this band. Echoes from the Gutter perfectly encapsulates the feeling of hearing Painkiller for the first time. Yes, it's that good. Hailing from Austria, Venator expanded their sound beyond the early new wave of British heavy metal sounds to some of those American influences as well. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but this band may have successfully created some songs on here that could easily sit among some of the legendary classics of the genre. If this album came out in the 80s, it would no doubt be among some of those massively inspirational metal records from the classic and traditional category. This band are masters of this world, I'm telling you. The album feels like a time capsule in the best way. Sure, it's not reinventing anything here, but you're hard-pressed to find another modern heavy metal band that's able to keep up with the greats. 4.7 out of 5, Laser-Eyed Megazords.
In a flash, race us fall from the sky.
This was a super random record from this year. Grawdeath's The Phantom of the Forgotten Vale. Who is this band? Well, it is a one-man melodic black metal band that really leans more into the traditional heavy power scene. In my notes, I put Blackened Man-O-War is now a thing, I guess. So take that as my initial thought. For a debut record, there is a lot to chew on. 11 tracks at 72 minutes. is a bit of a fucking burden to take on. That was really my biggest gripe with this record. Looking at their back catalog, it seems that they tend to lean into epic and long route, which, you know, is par for the course for trad, heavy, power sorts of territory. Their debut EP is 6 songs at 28 minutes. Either way, look, this is a really unique band that doesn't quite fit in the black metal category, mainly due to the projection and direction of the music. I also really enjoyed the production of this record. If you want a good place to start, check out the song Father of Debauchery, which is basically black metal warriors of the world. It's like the same song basically, but it's good. It's still pretty good. Not a bad record, unique because it's heavy trad riffs with black metal vocals, which is cool. It's definitely a bit too long, but there's some solid tracks on here. 4.1 out of 5 Undead Lightning Mages.
Speaking of heavy metal with some tinge of black metal, my next pick is Nite, Voices of the Kronian Moon, released March 25th on Season of Mist. There's just something about that trad metal sound that's mixed with black metal vocals that just plain fucking works. Everything on this record is just so well crafted, from the catchy riff domain akin to bands like Iron Maiden and Satan, but also with classic rock vibes, making things sound very occult and spooky in places all over the record. You know, it's kind of funny, I was looking forward to Abath's new album for the same reasons why we're talking about here, but Nite's record completely overshadowed that pick for me. The production is superb. Everything sounds subtle yet spooky, but really weighty in the low end, just to keep you interested throughout. If you somehow missed this album, just fucking spin it, man. I don't know why people aren't talking about it. It is amazing. 4.8 out of 5 Astral Necromancers.
In another record that just kind of loosely fits this category, this really isn't my favorite category if you can't tell. Dream Widows, self-titled, is a love letter to all things 80s and 90s heavy metal. Dream Widow does come off sounding like a soundtrack, because it is one, with a mishmash of genres, ultimately ending on 2 long-ass doom and sludge tracks, which are personally my favorite parts of this record. I connected most of those tracks, but I could not deny the power that Dave Grohl has when he wants to pay homage to bands like Venom, Motorhead, and Merciful Fate, and he does that so well in the middle tracks of this record. This is not a front-to-back, heavy or trad record. There's a lot of musical diversity on this one, so once again, you may sue me for picking something that does not fit very nicely and square into this category. I'll wait for you to serve me. Dream Widow has some really strong tracks that are worthy to be in your thrash and speed playlist. Overall, this record is a showcase of all the metal that Dave Grohl loves, and I love how he did it. 4.3 out of 5, Possessed Dave Grohls.
And my next pick here is Saxon, Carpe Diem, released February 4th on Silver Lining. What seems to be a heavy metal band that will just never fucking die. Saxon have released their goddamn 23rd album with Carpe Diem. You know what Saxon brings to the table? Some of the best goddamn new wave of British heavy metal sounds to ever grace the metal scene. What I don't understand is how a metal band so late into their career came out swinging this fucking hard. Carpe Diem is one of the heaviest and most consistent traditional heavy metal albums, not only by Saxon themselves, but by any band in the genre from the last few years. Every single track hits with heavy metal perfection. These guys sound like they're in their fucking 20s and not stopping anytime soon, yet they're kind of got one foot in the grave. So it's a little weird. Killer record, total surprise, absolutely loved it. 4.7 out of 5, Crusading Knights.
Destruction. This spring album really stood out with its tongue-in-cheek album cover and strong singles that displayed the hate and contempt that we have come to know and love and expect from this German thrash band. Don't know how many times I could say it, but I don't really get overly excited for thrash and heavy metal like I used to. So I think I've just grown more to other subgenres, which is fine. So for a thrash album to really stick with me, it has to have qualities that are going to put it over the edge. For me, Diabolical has two standout traits that I connected with: the riffs and the guitar tone. And boy, I expect that 5150 punch on these kinds of albums, and I was not let down. And by golly, the riffs on this record are fucking awesome. There definitely is some fat to be trimmed, though. I think they could have gone the death metal route with this one and went the 35 minute ripper instead of the 47-minute total runtime that it sits at. Overall, there are some ridiculous riffs on here that are absolutely worthy of your time. 4.2 out of 5 pits of nuclear waste.
Schizophrenia, Recollections of the Insane, released February 17th. Hey, I remember when thrash started to toe that line with death metal, and we got some of the best metal records ever written. Hailing from New Jersey, Schizophrenia mixed all of those best elements of thrash with different subgenres to pay homage to the glory days. This is the band's first full-length record, which kind of blew my fucking mind, with killer riffing, razor-sharp leads, and a tight 43-minute runtime. I love the production on this record too. You've got that modern power, but still clearly influenced by records from the 80s and 90s thrash albums of the past. The album has some of the coolest and intense riffing that I've heard on an album this year in this category. Sure, death thrash isn't really anything that's original, but I haven't heard an album in a long time that sounds this refreshing in years. More please from these dudes. 4.6 out of 5 Madness Icons.
Dude, I love this record. I'm very happy to see that you put it on here. This is probably the best thrash death album of 2022. Oshiago, a Singaporean band that has been quite active for about a decade now, which is surprising. I'd never heard of them. Their record from this year is entitled Yalhalat and is a unique experiment in death, thrash, and Asian folk metal. As I said, they are from Singapore. I love when bands bring in their cultural vibes into these metal albums. This is so fucking cool. As you can probably decipher from the album cover, title, etc., Oshiago, they are not afraid to bring their culture into the mix, displaying some really cool moments, as I said, of Asian flair in their melodies, their transitions, some of the instrumentation, etc. This is more along the lines of Floridian thrash death, and you can really hear the influences from bands like Monstrosity, Level and Creation, etc. The vocals are kind of meh on this record, but there are some wicked fucking solos that really help to elevate the musicianship on here. Overall, this is a highly unique OSDM thrash crossover that you should certainly be scoping. 4.3 out of 5, Assassins Blocking the Doorway.
And what were your favorite thrash, heavy power albums of 2022 so far? Leave them down in the comments below, and while you're at it, hit the like button and break the neck of the subscribe button.
As always, Forge Mates, go with the gods, and if you haven't already, have the Recollections of the Insane.
See you guys next time.